Coming up, we're in Tampa, Florida for the Republican National Convention. We've got Mitt Romney's answers on user fees. And you've asked, we listened. We tell you how to get FlyQ on an Android. We'll fly the Velocity V-twin and...
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Remembering a legend, our tribute to Neil Armstrong. AOPA Live this week begins right now. All eyes are on the Gulf Coast this week. That's because of Hurricane Isaac and the Republican National Convention. Hello and welcome to AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haines. Thanks for joining us. As expected, Governor Mitt Romney officially became the Republican nominee for president during the party's convention in Tampa. And while Hurricane Isaac was expected to dump on Tampa, the unpredictable storm veered left, leaving the convention just a little damp. AOPA is at the convention to advocate for general aviation.
Just outside the lockdown security area, right next to the MSNBC stage, AOPA, NBAA, and the Hill newspaper hosted a reception for Republican National Convention delegates. A reception to honor the hundreds of state and national Republican officials who have stood up for general aviation.
Happily, there's a long list, and so we're really here to say thanks to them, and to also make sure general aviation's presence is felt at the National Convention.
You know, we've had so many challenges, whether it's user fees or just a negative image that's been promoted. And we've had our champions on Capitol Hill have stood up, put the story straight about general aviation, helped us defeat user fees. We want to say thank you to those people, so we're excited to be here.
This is the first time that AOPA has partnered with the National Business Aviation Association to have a strong general aviation presence at the national political conventions. And with several hundred delegates who are also pilots rubbing elbows with political leaders, general aviation's message gets through.
I think it makes a big difference because you have people here at the convention that are obviously very interested in aviation issues, and we want to elect candidates that are very interested in aviation issues. And probably that biggest one, we just want to make sure that we have people that are against user fees in this country. It would destroy general aviation, and that's something that's important to all of us that are pilots and aircraft owners.
And partnering with the Hill newspaper is another important way of showing the significance of general aviation to Capitol Hill.
The Hill is widely read. It's a must-read publication for those of us who work on Capitol Hill.
And those elected to go to Capitol Hill are going to have a huge impact on the future of general aviation. As you'll hear in a moment, Governor Romney has not yet ruled out user fees, but ultimately it is Congress that decides that issue.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to work on. We're going to make darn sure that he has the right people that are advising him and the right people that are talking to him. And you take the vice president candidate, Paul Ryan. I have talked to him on numerous occasions about user fees and want to make sure that he sticks with us too and is very much against user fees. And so you want to have, people in the room, and that's what's important about this election. And when it comes to Governor Romney, I want to be that person in the room advocating for general aviation, make sure we don't have user fees.
At the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
Every 4 years, AOPA asks the presidential candidates for their positions on general aviation. Just last week, we received Governor Romney's answers to our questions. On the major issue of user fees, Governor Romney did not rule them out. We asked, what is your view on general aviation user fees and how would you propose to fund the aviation system? The governor's response, I believe that we should invest in our national infrastructure, specifically the aviation system. Yet spending is only part of the equation. Eliminating burdensome regulations and working with the aviation industry to ensure that consumers are receiving the best service possible are equally important to keeping costs down. Well, we asked Governor Romney about continuing funding from the general fund, an appropriation to the FAA, which amounts to about 28% of the FAA's budget. It comes from the general taxes because the general public receives significant benefits from a safe and efficient air transportation system, even if they don't fly. And the governor's full answer? As president, I would work with Congress to ensure that the FAA is appropriately funded to meet the needs of general aviation users and the general public. And we ask about pushing forward with next-gen implementation without reducing funding for airports and other vital aviation programs. Again, Governor Romney said, in part, NextGen was launched 8 years ago by the Bush administration, and progress has been slow. It is another example of a vital program that has been allowed to flounder because of a fundamental lack of leadership. It is critically important that NextGen moves into the fast lane, and as president, I will make sure that happens. Now, we did not specifically address the issue of maintaining funding levels for airports and aviation activities. And by the way, we'll have President Obama's answers to the same questions next week, and you can read the complete questions and full answers from both candidates in the October issue of AOPA Pilot magazine. And finally, just a reminder, TFRs are in effect for the RNC and the Democratic National Convention next week in Charlotte. You can learn the details of each right now on AOPA.org. And remember, always check the NOTAMs before you fly. Now, originally, AOPA Live executive producer Warren Morningstar and I had planned to fly my Bonanza to Tampa so we could bring you more extensive coverage of AOPA activities on behalf of General Aviation at the Republican National Convention. But at the time, we had to make the go, no-go decision. Tampa was facing tropical storm warnings from Isaac, so the prudent choice was to not fly into a major storm. But if your aircraft is within a hurricane watch or warning area, the prudent thing is to fly it to safety. And the AOPA Insurance Agency says many policies will help you do that.
Many of the underwriters and many of the carriers that will allow the pilot to be reimbursed for moving the aircraft out of a hurricane watch or warning area. And they define that as outside of the watch or warning area, not in the home base of the airport, by at least 100 miles. So, and then they will reimburse you for reasonable expenses up to usually a certain amount, $500 per policy period for moving it out of that area.
Now, some insurance carriers will increase your deductible if you don't move your airplane out of harm's way. You can find out more by calling the AOPA Insurance Agency at 1-800-622-AOPA. They have specialists on duty who can tell you exactly what your policy covers and help you get the right coverage for your aircraft. Well, you asked for it and we listened. FlyQ Pocket is now available for Android. You can find it by searching AOPA in the Google Play Store. AOPA Online Products Manager Kim Okasik says it's loaded with features.
It gives you airport directory information, aviation weather, and flight planning with auto routing capabilities, all in the palm of your hand.
And best of all, it's free to members. Remember, we also have an iPhone version of FlyQ. And coming up, we fly the new Velocity V Twin and remembering an American hero. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever. But to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. We now have probable cause information about the Reno Air Races crash from 2011. The NTSB concluded unanimously that untested modifications to the ill-fated P-51 Galloping Ghost, combined with speeds topping 400 knots, led to a failure that doomed pilot Jimmy Leeward and the 10 spectators killed when the 74-year-old pilot lost control of his aircraft during the 2011 National Champion Air Races in Reno, Nevada. Well, there are new developments in the Hawker Beechcraft bankruptcy story, and they're not going to make company executives very happy. A federal judge has stopped plans for 8 top company executives to get a $5.3 million bonus package. Judge Stuart Bernstein ruled that the bonus set the bar too low and was just a retention program for insiders. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers was against the plan, and so was the U.S. Justice Department's bankruptcy watchdog agency. Well, China is taking big steps forward in courting general aviation. Take a look at this. These are pictures from the AOPA China fly-in. The 3-day event wrapped up this week. The fly-in comes just after Chinese officials announced they plan to open up low-altitude airspace for civil aviation flights. Craig Spence, president of the International Council of Aircraft Owner and Pilot Associations, is in China working with officials on that project. We'll talk with him about his trip when he returns. And speaking of aviation shows, AOPA Summit in Palm Springs is just around the corner. Registration is underway right now. You don't want to miss the events we have in store for you. They include the Parade of Planes. This year we've got the Sky King Cessna 310, and of course everyone's perennial favorite, a P-51 Mustang in the procession with us. Also, Craig Hosking, a Hollywood precision pilot, is going to speak on Saturday. That and much more is all there for you. To register, head to aopa.org/summit. And of course, one of the highlights of Summit is a Night for Flight. The fundraising gala benefits the AOPA Foundation. One of the popular items up for grabs is aerobatic flight lessons with airshow legend Sean D. Tucker. AOPA's Alyssa Miller caught up with Tucker and last year's winner to see what the winner is bidding for.
Dive in like you're an airshow pilot now.
Rick King's dream of flying with aerobatic legend Sean D. Tucker came true this year, thanks to the AOPA Foundation's A Night for Flight auction. He was the highest bidder on a flight experience with Tucker in the 2011 auction.
Well, number one, I really believe what the AOPA Foundation's agenda and what it's doing. And so for me to be involved, it was really an honor. And then to have a guy like Rick King, who is a larger-than-life character, a very successful businessman, come out and spend almost 4 days with me and share my life. Flying with him was a blast.
Relax the G just a bit. There. Oh yeah, you made it over the top. That's nice.
They flew, they golfed, they cooked, and they were serenaded by a mariachi band. More importantly, these two aviators developed a lasting friendship.
When you spend four days with somebody, you fly with them, you golf with them, you laugh with them, you really get to know somebody, and I got a new very, very good friend.
Bidding on exciting aviation experiences is open in the AOPA Foundation's A Night for Flight auction. Visit the website on your screen for a look at the offerings and to place your bid. Alyssa Miller, AOPA Live.
No one knows how to put a party together better than Sean D. It's lots of fun flying with him, I'm sure. Well, it may be just about the biggest development the piston twin market has seen in a long time. Check out the Velocity V-twin. AOPA pilot senior editor Dave Hirschman flew the revolutionary airplane. Here's a look.
The Velocity V-twin is just a fascinating airplane on a number of levels. It's a stellar performer. It's very stable, it's very responsive, visibility is excellent. It's a joy to fly. Speed and range, also exceptional. 185 knots, true airspeed, with both engines operating normally at 75% power. The home built to the experimental category was built for experimentation, and this definitely is experimentation. It's different from anything else that's out there. It looks like a baby Starship. I mean, it's a piston version of the Beech's turboprop Starship in some ways. It uses two Lycoming 0320 engines, which are, as close to bulletproof as piston engines get. Its single engine performance is exceptional. It'll climb on one engine at full gross weight. It solves the thorniest problem, which is an aerodynamic limitation that leads to loss of control accidents in traditional piston twins. In the Velocity V-twin, the engines are close together. The thrust lines are close together, so asymmetric thrust in the event of an engine failure is less. And the minimum controllable airspeed is significantly below the airplane's stall speed. And it really breathes new life into the moribund piston twin category because, in recent years, that category has really dropped off a cliff in terms of sales and in terms of the value of the existing fleet. And this is the first airplane that I've seen that really has the potential to turn that value equation around. It's the first new design piston twin that can shake things up. Just the form of these airplanes, it's inspiring, it captures the imagination, it makes you think, wow, and there's no angle that you can observe this airplane without being impressed. The pricing is going to vary widely depending on the options, but this is not an inexpensive airplane. The kit is $110,000, and that does not include the engines, props, or instruments. you think you've seen it all, and you think there can't be anything new under the sun when it comes to such a mature category as the piston twin. But the V-twin really reimagines the piston twin in a very unconventional way.
Had a great time flying off of the Velocity Twins the other night. It was a beautiful evening to be out flying. And speaking of flying, AOPA Aviators, our new youth membership, is taking off in its next big step. The first email newsletter goes out to the teenage members this coming week. It's not too late to get you or your teen on that list. Head over to aopa.org/AV, the number 8RS, and sign up for a free membership today. As we work to inspire and engage youth, many young people are already flying, though. Jim Arnold found the stories of 3 young pilots who make up the next generation.
Beautiful Cap 232, flown by David Martin.
As young spectators look to the sky during a recent air show at the Oshkosh Fly-In, you have to wonder how many are thinking, could I be a pilot like that someday?
Look at these guys coming down fast on top. You think you can do it?
Maybe one year.
For young Hunter Cobb, his route to the left seat is already planned out.
I'm 13, and as soon as I'm 16, I plan to get my solo before I get my driver's license. When I'm 17, I want to get my pilot's license for my 17th birthday and just keep flying and try to put as many hours on it as I can. Can I close that?
Nose gear, how's that faring?
Hunter came to Oshkosh with his father Andy in the band's RV-7 he helped his dad build.
Hunter's a great co-pilot. He's been flying with me since he's about 5 years old, since his mom would first let him. So probably flown with me 200, 250 hours, somewhere in that range. He's a lot of help in the cockpit, watching for traffic, verifying what the controllers are telling us, and just any kind of help I need out in the cockpit. It's always handy to have somebody there to help you. Hunter does a great job, and he's going to be a good pilot.
So it's great that you're only 17 years old and you are working on your instrument rating. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm going to be a senior in high school. I have a 4.6 GPA.
17-year-old Zara Khan returned to Oshkosh this year, where her interest in aviation began. She's definitely on a fast track.
I went to Oshkosh last year and attended a camp called Women Soar, and that just, I caught the aviation bug. So I started November 12th flying, and then I soloed December 17th. And then March of 2012, I did my check ride on my birthday. And, you know, I passed, and so I got my private pilot license on my birthday. It was amazing. It was one of the best feelings in the world. Best birthday present ever.
I'm third generation aviation. My grandfather and my father were both pilots. I grew up around it. I knew I just wanted to be a part of it somehow, any way I could. All right, your call sign will be Frasca 141, okay?
And that desire for CFI Andrew Huff would lead to staying at Middle Georgia College after graduation and teaching a whole new group of young aviators to fly.
Okay. We're going to depart Eastman and basically go at a heading of south. When I started instructing, I never realized how much of an influence I'd have on my students and how much I'd learn just by teaching them. I learned there's a theory of primacy that the first thing they learn is going to stick in their memory the longest. So it's a huge responsibility, and I'm thrilled to be able to pass that on, because my generation and this upcoming generation, we are the future of aviation.
In Eastman, Georgia, Jim Arnold, AOPA Live.
What a great bunch of young aviators. Glad to have them. When we come back, we pay tribute to one of history's finest aviators. You're watching AOPA Live this week. Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. Neil Armstrong inspired a generation to look to the skies and explore new technology. Now, on the week of his passing, technology is playing a key role in remembering the hero. Social media sites of all types spiked Saturday afternoon as word spread about the death of astronaut Neil Armstrong. America's space pioneer died August 25th, causing pilots worldwide to post on Facebook, Twitter, and other sites their remembrances of Armstrong's daring first steps on the moon on July 20th, 1969. Armstrong and the entire Apollo lunar program inspired a generation of us to take to the skies. Remembered as a humble and reluctant hero, his first steps on the moon were said to unite the world, if only for a few minutes, during the turbulent late 1960s. Close friends and family will gather for a private memorial service Friday. I was among those inspired by Armstrong. That evening, watching him land on the moon, staying up late, sitting cross-legged in front of our black and white TV. And it was that technology and his inspiration that caused me later to go out to an airport and learn to fly. So I'm grateful for him. I had the opportunity to spend some time with him a few weeks ago, as you may recall, in the July issue of AOPA Pilot. Got to ride in the back of a limo with him, sort of in an ad hoc kind of meeting, and it was remarkable to talk with him and learn about his aviation passion that was still there. He recently sold his Cessna 310, but was planning to buy another airplane when he was struck with a heart condition and ultimately didn't recover. So Godspeed, Neil Armstrong.
I couldn't see, and so I kind of calmly thought to myself, well, this is how it ends. I'm trapped upside down, inverted, I'm drowning, I'm sucking water in, and in one more breath of water, I'll pass out.
That chilling clip is from the Air Safety Institute's latest video, No Greater Burden. It's the story of a seaplane pilot who had one momentary lapse, and it cost the life of his young son. Russ Jeter was devastated, but he also wanted something good to come from his accident, and so he offered to share his story with the pilot community.
I approached this with some hesitation. We had a lot of internal discussion about how this might play, and I'm just completely gratified with how the pilot community has responded up to this point. This was a pilot who was fully qualified, very capable, very experienced in the type of aircraft he was flying, and so forth. There was a much deeper psychological situation that was going on, and he didn't make a major mistake. The consequences were major, but this is what we would categorize as a lapse. And I think the star of all of this is really Russ, in terms of his willingness to open up, put himself and his feelings on the world stage, and come out and make this kind of a commitment to our community. I can't say enough positive about that.
You'll find the video and tools to help you assess your readiness to fly on our website. Just type No Greater Burden in the search box to find it. Well, click in next week when we will have coverage from the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte. AOPA is reaching out to leaders from both major parties in this election year. And next week we will hear what President Barack Obama has to say about user fees. Until then, we leave you with a behind-the-scenes look at our photo and video shoot of the Velocity V Twin, set to music by pilot and AOPA member Ryan Shepard. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.
Every Thursday,
we're working to get you answers.
The most experienced reporters in general aviation.
Bringing you more details as they develop.
The stories that affect you.
We talk with our own safety expert.
Every Thursday, AOPA Live this week.